I'm Mark Valley, and I have a new podcast where I spot, assess, and have coffee with spies, operators, and agents over stories of action, diplomacy, and intrigue.
Check it out at markvalley.com. It's the live drop.
This is Mick Gillette.
This is Jay Moore.
This is Greg Proops.
This is Gabby Reese.
This is Nate Boyer.
This is Hilliard Guess.
This is Nathan
This
East.
is Rob Bell.
This is J.R. Robinson.
This is Dan Stone.
This is Dr. Bob Greenberg.
Hey, this is John Leon Guerrero.
Hey, I'm Mark Valley.
Hey, and this is Pete A. Turner.
Fire away.
This is Roger Clinton, and you're listening to the Break It Down Show.
And now, the Break It Down Show with John Leon Guerrero, Mark Valley, and Pete A. Turner.
Yes, indeed. Roger Clinton is a singer-songwriter. He's from Arkansas. He was also the first brother. I'd say you still are.
Yeah,
I think that's one of those titles that once you get there, you got there.
Yeah. You can't just make a call and say, I've been thinking about it.
Yeah.
And I think I'm going to pass.
Okay.
Yeah, you just can't do that.
You can't do that. Right.
It's forever and ever, amen.
Yeah.
And it's a good thing. The good outweighs the bad.
Okay. What we want to know about you, now that you're on the Break It Down show, is what you're up to now, because did I hear correctly that you played Farm Aid?
Yes, sir. That was a great honor to play Farm Aid. It was beautiful. Those people there in Iowa are just wonderful folks. It was an incredible experience. About 100,000 people out in the field, and it was beautiful.
100,000 people.
And being introduced on stage by Willie Nelson.
Yeah.
It doesn't get much better than that.
Right.
It does not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was pretty cool. Yeah. I've played some wonderful shows all around the world. I've been very blessed.
Now, you've also hung out and spent time with Willie Nelson. Is that true?
Yes, I have. A little bit here, a little bit there. And, it's questionable whether or not he would remember it in great detail. But
why do you say that? He remembers everything, doesn't he?
Well, just about. I'll tell you what, I don't know if he remembers or not. I've got a song that I'm just about to release that is called The Good Things in Life. And I remember just very quickly, I was on a flight to Nashville and to pitch the song. When I first started doing it, I never write in the vein of anyone, really. I write a certain genre, and sometimes I'll do the lyrics first, sometimes the melody first,
Whatever comes to you.
Yeah, whatever comes to me at the time. And this was about the simple things in life, just the good things in life. And I've always believed simpler is better. And I found myself on this plane one day going to Nashville to make a pitch on this because I kept, for some reason, writing in the country vein on this one project.
Okay.
And I looked up in first class, and there was Willie. There was a lady sitting next to him, and I didn't have my at the time, my Walkman. I'm dating myself now. Yeah. But I've always loved to sing a cappella. So she gets up, goes to the bathroom. Long story short, I shoot the gap. I sit down next to him, and I said, man, would you listen to this tune? I think it could be your next big song, because when I wrote it, I was going, a child will wish upon a star, I wonder what he'll grow to be. And it's like, I was going, Jesus, why am I writing like Willie Nelson? Singing it like Willie Nelson would sing it. And I've always been stuck with that for some reason. I've been sort of committed to pitching it to him. Pitched it to him. He probably pitched it right out. Who knows? I haven't heard from him, but he's going to hear about this song again real soon, because I've pulled it off the back burner and
out of the archives.
Sort of tweaked it up. Yeah. And I think it's going to be a really powerful song.
So when you went to Nashville, you were there to pitch the song. You didn't actually go in and record it?
No, I didn't record it. I have done recording around the general area, and I performed with and traveled around as one of the Jones Boys for 4 years with the Possum.
Wow.
God rest his soul. With George Jones.
Yeah.
What a lesson.
Yeah. So when you were growing up, you grew up in Arkansas.
Right.
Were you surrounded by country music, or were you...
Country music, well, country music to a certain degree.
A little more soulful.
But, yeah, for lack of better expression, I've always done black music.
Right.
Always. I've done rhythm and blues, funk, jazz.
Because you're closer to Memphis than to Nashville.
Oh, absolutely. And I used to go to Beale Street all the time and sit in and do the blues. And, I've always, like I tell everybody, I've had an all-black band the whole time I've been out here in L.A.
Yeah.
You know, and I consider myself half black. It's just the top half, you know. It's just the top damn half. Sometimes that doesn't work in your favor.
The top half.
Top half.
Oh, man.
Yeah, it's that bottom half.
That's the wrong half.
Yeah, I know. Sometimes I think it is. But
you know what? I'm going to stick my buddy Todd Rex. He goes by T-Rex. He's a comedian. And his bit, because he's yellow, and his bit was always, you know, I'm half and half, and it's the bottom half. That means I got a big dick and good credit.
Oh! Well, you know, like I tell him, it might not be thick, but it's short. So, you know, so that's as far as I can go with that deal.
Niko almost lost his drink. It was close. Yeah. Hey, so you do have a foot in country and a foot in soul and
Yes.
rhythm and blues and all these different rhythm and blues and blues. What about like things like Western music? What's happened to Western music? Is it
I don't
just,
know.
As a genre,
I
it's
think
just
the
not
West
talked
is
about?
one.
Yeah.
Well,
And as a genre, it really has, you know, kind of gone by the wayside. It's
Right.
not really.
It really has.
Because I think that, you know, the spirit of the traveler as is, you know, in Western music is not what it used to be.
Let's clarify something real quick. Let me ask you, fellas, are you referring to Western music like down on the plains with the yeehaw? Or are you talking about Western rock like a Marshall Tucker
like
or Leonard Skinner?
Country and Western. You know,
Country and Western.
Yeah,
Right,
no,
right.
I'm
got
going
you.
with Plains Western. I mean,
got
I
you.
imagine it to be dusty and a lot of it to be,
Yeah.
you know, the what you're doing sitting on a flatbed of a train.
The Eagles have a little bit of Western.
Yeah, a little
in
bit of
their
Western.
style. You know.
Yeah.
I don't know if that-
God rest
Trucker
Glenn
music.
Fry's soul.
Oh,
Oh
man.
yeah.
God rest his soul. And if you haven't heard, I believe, now I might be wrong, so don't anybody out there quote me on this,
I've heard this too.
but his last album,
Uh-huh.
the one before he passed, there's a song on there that is called something to the effect of, I might be
It's called
destroyed.
Fuck You Assholes,
And
I'm Outta Here. No.
but it is. It's like it's your turn now, or it's your world now, or it's your life now.
Wow.
And it's so prophetic.
Yeah.
It is so prophetic. It is incredibly powerful. And it's about, and it can be about a girlfriend, a boyfriend, a
Right.
husband, wife, a best friend, whatever.
Or
And
the
it's about
world.
or the world.
Yeah.
And it's about leaving it and leaving it to you.
To somebody, yeah.
To whomever,
Right.
whoever
The collective
is.
you.
Yeah, exactly. And
Wow.
it is absolutely one of the most powerful songs I've ever heard.
Those kind of songs that give everybody a piece, like, you know, Bono does this great too. He writes for everybody. So is this song about this? Is it about that? It's about whatever it resonates with your soul.
Yeah.
But the thing is, those songs resonate. They
But do
actually
you think
get
that
there.
few people
Yeah.
can write like that? I mean, do you write like that, Roger? Because I think there are a lot of people who write songs about, you know, the individual experience, and then there are people who have crossed a line, you know, Michael Jackson, Bono,
Yeah.
Prince, people who have now can speak for the world because they've been out in it speaking for it for so
Right.
long that they almost, like, their individual experience, they've left that behind.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
kind of like the plains ain't so dusty no more. That's why we don't have Western music.
I hear
So
ya.
there are just some artists who
There-
escape the individual experience.
Yeah, I think you're right, John. I think there are so many different stages that there are different stages, there are different times, there are different genres, and then there are so many different talents out there that sometimes they go back and forth with different genres, different ideas. But the stages, you know, sometimes you'll go through the money stage, the financial stage, the pop stage,
Right.
whatever, the romantic, the love story stage,
Yep.
all that stuff.
Yep.
And then you'll go into where I have graduated to, and I consider it a graduation. I don't care about the money. I really don't. I want to make a difference with some of my music. It's very message oriented. It's based on society that we live in and that I hope that we are going to live in
Right.
without getting too political, you know, because that's just not going to work.
Well, let's just say, I mean, because of your individual experience,
Right.
you know, I mean, you're bound to think politically because you know what possibilities look like. But as an artist, that's a different thing. That's a different thought process for what the world can be like and how you can affect it. So you kind of have, you know, Pete's talking about having 1 foot in soul and 1 foot in country. You have 1 foot in the practical political
Sure.
and 1 foot in the artistic, change the world through changing emotion.
Right.
So if it's a graduation, which one is it? And where do you more live now?
Or is,
Oh,
or is
man.
it a dance where you're like Dance Dance Revolution and your feet just move around?
I think it has to be like that.
Yeah.
It has to be like that, Pete. Basically a dance. But that's such a great question, John, about where am I right now? It's like sometimes I don't know. Sometimes I don't want to know.
Yeah.
Sometimes I just want to be, and I want to create. There are certain things that I have come to realize and had to deal with. Who I am, who my family is, that's the hand I was dealt. Mm-hmm. I've always thought the good far outweighs the bad. The historical aspect of it is just mind-boggling.
Yeah.
But as everyone does in each one of our own lives, you have to deal with the ups and the downs, the good and the bad. And the name of my band for 14 years out here was Politics. And it was because of everyday politics, not about campaign politics.
You
but
had
about
Politics
everything.
as a band for 14 years?
That was the name of the band here.
I thought your band was called Dealer's Choice.
No, that was the first band I was ever in. When I was a
Wow.
kid, when I started performing professionally
That's such a great
at 15.
name for a band.
Dealer's Choice.
Yeah.
It was from the four of us. God rest two of their souls. The drummer and the lead guitar player are both passed on now. The bass player and I worked together with George Jones. When I moved to L.A. 27 years ago, my buddy Vaughn Reed, the bass player, stayed with George as his bass player for another 20 years.
Wow.
Up until George passed. Dealer's Choice was a name of a pinball machine at the Central Bowling Alley in
Right.
Hot Springs, Arkansas.
Yeah.
And we would
Right?
be
Had a
on the
hand
same,
of cards. And
yes,
yeah, I remember
exactly.
that. Yeah.
And we would always play it in between our bowling league. We would go and play this, and there was room
So it
for
became
four
the
people.
unofficial mechanical mascot of the band.
Absolutely.
And you named it
Absolutely.
after the pinball
And we
machine.
stayed together about 7 years.
Okay.
And then I
Now
changed.
that band though got signed, right? Didn't
Yeah, we signed.
You guys made an
we
album.
signed a really small deal, so obscure, but it was big to us.
Sure.
You know, it afforded us a big box van or a box truck that we could all travel.
get on the road
all
in.
travel
High class.
together with our equipment in one compartment.
Yeah.
Did you fight over who's going to ride in the back?
Well, whoever was
Whoever landed the chick.
exactly. I was trying to figure out a way to phrase that.
Hey man, we don't pull punches around here.
I just have to
We
be
go
so
right
damn
for it.
politically correct so many times that I was feeling around, so to speak.
Okay,
for a way to put that.
Appreciate your subtlety, but it's nobody listening to this show, man. We can say whatever we want.
Cool.
So the next thing though that I want to ask you, because I'm looking at you, and this is the first day that we've met.
Yes, sir.
Okay, your family resemblance. It certainly is, it's pretty obvious. But
Yes, sir.
What's the age difference between you and your brother?
10 years.
10 years.
He's 71.
Okay.
I'm 61.
I voted for him. I'm a big fan. I'm a musician. He played the saxophone, all that stuff. My parents went to the inauguration. So I say this respectfully. He looks like he's 1,000 years older than you. And I hope he lasts 1,000 more years. He's out there doing all kinds of good
Yes,
and
sir.
stuff. But holy cow, the difference. I mean, you also spent not only that time artistically expressing yourself and all those things that keep you warm, but you also partied harder than he did.
Oh, my goodness.
And the difference, though, in your appearance and his, I hope he holds up. But, man, he looks a ton
Yeah.
older than you.
yeah, I pray for him every day, just like I pray for myself and my son and my mother. God rest her soul. And I'm proud and happy to report that he is doing well.
Good.
As far as his health. His appearance, you can just go right down the list of past presidents.
Yeah.
And see how they
That job,
age.
that
while
job
they're-
kicks your ass, man.
It's an impossible job.
It's unforgiving.
Yeah.
You win just from the historical aspect. I'm convinced of it, and because you make the biggest difference
Yeah.
after your presidency if
Right.
that's what you choose to do.
Yeah.
If you
Right.
choose to not rest on your laurels and just retire with the history, intact.
Yeah. Well, the encumbrances are taken off. I mean, look, I've said even when he was president, President Obama is going to be probably the best ex-president we've ever had because he's so young and he can do whatever the fuck he wants now. It doesn't have to get anybody. There's no
Yeah.
consensus. It's all about he has his
He can pick
audience.
his mission.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just like
It's
Bill
a little
has.
it's a little unfortunate, in my opinion. We have a president that doesn't know how to be a president.
Yeah.
And he's had a year
That's
now to
real,
learn.
real shitty.
You don't really know going in anyway. No one does.
No one
Sure.
does.
No matter how qualified you may or may not be.
Yeah, that
But
job will take
after
anybody
a year,
by
you
surprise.
should have a little bit figured out. You shouldn't be
At
worse
least the decorum
after a
part
year.
of it.
Yeah.
You know,
and
at
he's
least
trying
the-
to change everything my brother laid in place, Obama laid in place, even the two Bushes.
The two Bushes, yeah.
President Bush. He's trying to change everything because he's so narcissistic.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what anybody's politics is.
Yep.
The facts are the facts.
Yeah.
And it's hard to argue with the truth. It's just really hard. And he's just so into his name that he's more into his name than he is into the country. That's just my opinion.
I happen to share that opinion. I
I
mean,
wish he would leave President Obama and all of his hard work and everything that he did for this country.
Yeah.
You know, nobody's ever going to get it completely right. No one is. But the mere fact that he wants to change and alter and amend and repeal and replace and
For the sake of repealing.
Exactly.
You know, it's not like he's got a better idea. He just wants to undo that idea.
It's as if President Obama did zero right.
Right.
Or zero in the best interest of this country, because I have yet to hear President Trump. Now, I'm not saying he hasn't done it, but I have yet to hear him in any forum qualify President Obama as a good president, as an effective president, as a true American.
Having accomplished anything noteworthy, for the good of the people. Right. He's just not going to ever acknowledge that any of that happened.
And that's a shame.
It is. It's terrible.
That's a shame.
I mean, I can see now the ex-president factor that Pete's talking about and how his youthful vigor, is going to help him out. But even if you look at your brother and the Bushes and their relationship now,
they can look
back and say, hey, we've done that job. And now that we don't have all of that weight on us and all of those encumbrances, like Pete put it, let's get something done. Let's get something done together. And you can see the man,
And look at how much they've done together since they've been out.
Yeah.
That's that was my point, is that you're not encumbered. You're not restrained by ethics committees, watchdog groups, any kind of barometer like that. The world is your barometer. I mean, it's whatever you choose to do to make a difference in this world.
Look at Jimmy Carter. You want to throw a tool belt on and go swing a hammer, you can go do that.
Yeah.
And he's still ready to go.
Man.
He's still ready to roll. I mean, he offered his services, and it was they were declined.
How did your brother and your sister-in-law's political career encumber you, though? And I don't necessarily mean it gives your life a direction in some way, or like a trend maybe, or no? There are implications that happen, good and bad, from this.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's not the life I would have chosen. I chose to be, we were both entertainers. We were both musicians growing up, and we loved music. And he went, when we got to that proverbial fork in the road, he went to politics.
Yeah.
And I went to music. However, music to a certain degree followed him around and provided the opportunity for him to participate to some degree, like guest on shows and so forth.
When he blew the sax on Arsenio.
Right.
Changed everything.
That really did. I mean, it humanized him.
So
it made him accessible and all that stuff. So it worked in his advantage.
However, when I went that way, there was no really real way that could be perceived as anything other than maybe unethical, or he's got an agenda, being myself.
Yeah.
He's pulling some weight. He's calling in some
you can't escape.
brownie points and so forth.
Calling in the proverbial airstrike that
and
I'm gonna call
none of the rest
brother.
of us get to.
Right. And there were so many people, believe it or not, that and still are reluctant to give me an opportunity for fear of it looking like they gave me the opportunity because of who I am. Right, exactly. So, it's just, but it's the hand I was dealt. It's the hand I was dealt. I could have swum upstream and died when I got to the head of the stream.
Yeah.
Did you guys have a conversation about it, though? Like, as he...
Oh, we've had some good conversations about it over the years.
I mean, prior, he's like, I'm going to run for presidency.
No.
So he just doing his own thing.
And we knew it as well as you can know something without actually knowing.
Yeah.
We knew. he had made his decision.
Yeah.
Back in 74, I believe it was.
And he had the stuff. I mean, that's the
He
difference.
did have the stuff.
Really.
He had the
You know,
stuff.
when you have...
He had the stuff
It's
then.
one thing to love music and say, hey, I'm going to pursue this thing and I'm good at it and I'm going to go do it. And there's a
Right.
million of us out there, right?
Yeah.
There are very few people who have a 105-mile-an-hour fastball. And there are very few people who have just that very special skill set that goes beyond, you know, into a very particular and very special job. So...
Yeah.
To some degree, you know, he chose the political arena and all that stuff, but it chose him too.
No doubt. That's a very good point. It certainly did. We needed him.
Yeah.
I mean, we needed him at that time. at this time, we needed him.
Yes, indeed.
But
Yes, indeed.
it's such a double-edged sword.
yeah.
You know,
Even for you.
absolutely.
Even to
Absolutely.
this
And now
day.
I'll look at the things that are being resurrected.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to deal with that as well.
What's
I,
being resurrected?
Well, all the stuff about the Clinton Foundation and now all this stuff that's been investigated time and time and time again over the years.
Yeah.
Just as a
It's gonna
diversionary
get investigated some more.
tactic.
Let me ask you this. So your brother obviously has a lot of acumen in the political arena, but if you guys sit right there on the same stage, do you have the chops? Or can he hang with you?
No.
Not anymore.
I'll let him sit in. I'll let him sit in for a couple of measures,
Yeah,
you know.
right. Yeah.
But then I've got a horn player.
Do you guys ever?
But,
do you guys
but
ever-
on the other hand, you know, he's not going to drag you into a Senate congressional hearing or something and throw
Hell
you
no.
on the, you know. I mean, it's just the, like we were saying, the arena has chosen you and the arena has
Right.
chosen him.
Absolutely.
was this always the case, though? You think?
Yeah, I believe so. I've always, I'll be honest, Michael Jackson was my hero.
Okay.
And when I was little, I wanted to be like Michael Jackson.
Okay.
I mean, honestly.
Hold on. Let me put the brakes on just for 1 second. I don't want to derail you, but you said Michael Jackson. I was thinking Michael Jackson, but here's why. Because Michael Jackson, when he was 10, could whoop Randy Jackson when he was 20. Jackie couldn't stand a chance. Marlon couldn't stand a chance. So now, musically speaking, when you were 12 and Bill was 22, were you like, yeah, I know you're smart, man, but I could whoop you? You want to go on stage?
You know,
I'll whoop you right now. Could you do that at age 12?
I could damn sure do it at age 15.
Okay.
All
okay.
right. That's
I'm
fair.
not sure if we can go all the way back to 12 or
All
not.
right. But it was brewing.
Because he still had chops back then.
Yeah.
Sure.
You know, on that sax of his.
Right.
He played a con tenor, and it was a beautiful thing. He used to play all the time, and and I played for like 8 years. Mother wanted us to be a big saxophone duo,
Okay.
but I wanted to do sports.
Because she thought that was a thing.
Yeah. But I wanted to play sports. My brother was out
Can
in
you
the
name all
midfield,
the famous
lead the band.
saxophone duos?
Yeah, there
Pete?
was Morty and Stuckey,
Oh, Morty and Stuckey.
Yeah.
That's right.
Christopher and Cross.
Christopher and Cross. They had one album.
Well, but they also went up and they did the Boar Circuit for a while.
Yeah,
as
but
it was kind
still,
of comedy.
one
and-
album.
Yeah, that's true. But it was good.
Okay. But a Hall of Fame career, one album does not make.
I
Anyway,
think Johnny might have played a little bit. I think Johnny and Edgar.
Johnny and Edgar.
yeah.
I believe. I know Johnny and Edgar both did guitar, both did keys.
But
And
you
I
think they both played saxophone,
I
really?
think Well, I know Edgar did like a bitch,
Yeah. Yeah, but Johnny too, maybe.
but I think Johnny did too. They played just about anything they wanted to,
Sure.
and
We
sang
had-
just about anything they wanted.
A couple weeks ago, we had Rick Marotta on the show.
Oh.
And he played with both of them. And I have no point to make except that I love Rick Marotta. So, Rick,
What's up?
Rick,
what's going
Rick,
on, man?
Shout out!
Just a shout out to Rick.
Yeah,
As you go down this
people like
path-
that. I just like to pay homage to.
Oh, man. I know.
He's so
Because those are
fantastic.
those people like him and so many others have just laid the groundwork for me. And like when I played House of Blues, God bless the House of Blues. I mean, God bless them. But it pales in comparison when you're talking about the Mint, the Troubadour, the Roxy.
Okay.
These are all places that I've performed.
The legendary places that still have
The
this-
legendary places.
The stink is in the grain.
You bet.
of
And
those
when you're on
places.
stage, I'm telling you, I remember the first time I played the Troubadour. And first off, it's right next to Dan Tana's. Shout out to Dan Tana's, my favorite restaurant. Anyway, I remember when I was on stage the first time we played there, and it was like, my God, the Beatles, the Stones, the Eagles, the Doors, just on and on and on. And I'm thinking, I don't see the footsteps, but I feel
You
them.
feel them, yeah.
I feel them.
Let me ask Niko, have you ever heard of the Troubadour?
No.
I've failed as a parent.
Oh my goodness! Oh my goodness! Or the Mint. I'm not even sure if the Mint is still going or not. But
No, it's not still there. But the legendary places like that. I was wondering where you were going, because when you said, God bless the House of Blues, you were saying that like, God bless that little, the little kid who's at the fishing hole and he's eating glue or whatever he's eating. Like, oh, God bless him. He's a little touched.
He's more like the trust fund kid. He can put any band he wants in his room, but there's just no soul in that place.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a good analogy, because the House of Blues, I might say it's like a trust fund club.
It is. It is. And it's, again, great.
Okay,
Thank you
but
for doing
let's
what you
say
do.
it's great.
Thank you, Dan Aykroyd, for providing the trust fund.
God bless Dan Aykroyd.
Yes, indeed. We're not taking anything away from it,
No.
but it did have a different kind of upbringing than a place like the Troubadour, a place like the Whiskey, that had to do it gritty and half burnt down sometimes.
Yeah.
And you got to step over some hypodermic needles to get to the, and that was just one of the things that made that place breathe that way.
Yeah.
And it's like that girl who is bad news.
What's the,
leave that
what's
girl
the-
alone. But you can't leave her alone. She's a little slutty, and
What's the
she's been
HR
around, but she does that special thing for you, and she's
Yeah.
What's the HR training program at the Troubadour versus the House of Blues?
Listen, I still remember still the Sunset Grill that I used to play at a place called Black and Blue. Do you remember Black and Blue?
I
Which
don't
was
remember Black and Blue.
Mickey Rourke and
Yeah.
Sly Stallone's place, I believe. It
Okay.
was the two of them.
How often do you and your brother, do you guys ever play instruments at all and get together like up in New York?
No, rarely.
It's just, how often do you guys just hang out like brothers? Does that happen?
Well, because of the geographic difference,
Yeah.
and which I can't stand. I see him maybe either here or there. I see him maybe once every couple of months.
Yeah.
Not near enough.
Well, I thought you were
near
going to
enough.
say
that's more than
that.
I would have thought
Yeah.
too.
Yeah,
Just
and
because
it's
you
and
guys
it's,
are
and
across
it's
the country
more.
from each
I'm
other.
happy to say, mainly because of my sobriety now.
Yeah.
Today is day 113.
Hey,
Beautiful.
congratulations,
Thank you.
man!
Great job.
Yeah, I'm real proud.
Congratulations.
I'm real proud of that. It's one of the. I think just behind the birth of my son.
Wow.
I would put it second as the crowning achievement in my life. More so than performing at Farm Aid or performing in North Korea, which was a great honor.
I want to remind you are on the Break It Down show. That's pretty high up there.
Yeah.
Damn it.
You may want to take a look at that list. I mean,
Well, I didn't know if
take
y'all wanted me to really promote this place like I really feel.
Hey, so if your sobriety, if you want to compare that, because one of the folks we're looking forward to having in the next couple of weeks is Liberty DeVito. He played drums for Billy Joel for many years.
Sure.
And he is a sober warrior himself nowadays. And so his sobriety is very, very important to him. It's such an individual thing. How can you compare it? If you look at, like you said, the birth of your child.
Right.
Or the ability to help so many people when you played at Farm Aid, or those things that you do where you help so many people, comparing that to your sobriety and thank God, but you're helping really yourself. Can you compare those two things?
Well, I haven't gotten to the stage yet, I don't believe. This is the first time I've thought about it like this, where it's fun.
Okay.
My sobriety.
Yeah.
I think it's the best thing for me. I'm real proud of it. It's hard work. To be such a simple, flippant thing, it's very hard work. You have to be dedicated, committed. You have to put in the work, and that's what I'm doing. I think I've been so consumed with doing the work and living up to my commitment and my dedication to live the rest of my life sober, one day at a time. I know that sounds so cliche, but it is so true that I haven't gotten to that quote-unquote fun stage. Now, on the other hand, when you've got Willie Nelson, Chris Christopherson, Waylon Jennings, and Johnny Cash, and they're all out on stage and they ask you to come out and play with them, and then Willie grabs the mic himself and says, after I sang with them together on stage, then they said, now here's Roger Clinton, and Willie says that with his band performing a few of their songs. It's hard to beat that as far as,
that's fun.
That's fun. And it defines my dream. It defines my passion and my soul.
Yeah.
That's what it defines, because that's where when I'm on stage, it's like,
Right.
I'm safe. I'm safe.
When you have that moment, you're more artistic, more whimsical. Like I'm the same way too, and I'll bring all this stuff together. But when you're in that moment, you think to yourself, I don't care if I ever accomplish anything ever again. I don't care if I ever make a dime. This is the moment. Of course, we have to go make more dimes and we have to go accomplish more things.
Right.
But it's such an impactful thing for the nature of guys like us, who create things. I've got PTSD like crazy, 1,000 combat missions, and sort of like sobriety. If I don't spend every day in my PTSD gym working on protecting me, man, I slide off a cliff, and I get mad about stuff, and so what I figured out, and I maybe like a minute ahead of you in my recovery in these things, is now that I've got this stability again and I'm more like myself, what am I going to do with what I've given myself? I realized the other day, I'm like, I'm just going to create stuff.
What a cool thing to do.
Yeah, and I'm just going to, if I make some money, great. Sly Stone taught us. He's like, if my songs aren't good enough, I don't deserve to eat. Well, that's a pretty high bar.
That's pretty high bar.
So somewhere below that, maybe, I got to make a little bit of money.
And looking at us, you can tell we like eating.
Yeah.
But so I think where Pete is with his journey, dealing with his PTSD,
and it is a journey.
It's a similar thing in that like you said, it's cliche to say it's one day at a time, but the reality is you got to do the work every day.
Every day.
Every day.
So maybe that's the difference between something where you have gotten to the fun part, you have gotten to the impactive part, and your sobriety, which is 113 days old. You haven't gotten there yet, but you're doing the work every day.
Every day.
And that's an accomplishment just to know that you wake up and you're going to do the work.
And you can't really afford to take a break.
Boy.
You really can't.
Yeah.
So now that I've said you look so much younger than your brother.
Right. Thank you very much. Did I thank you? Did I thank you?
115 days ago, did you look like shit? Would I have said, Jesus, you
well, depends on what picture you're looking at.
Okay.
Yeah, I drank my heart to death, man.
Wow.
I drank my heart to death. It was called heart failure. I'm proud to say that my heart is now back to 75%. My liver and
you literally did kill your heart.
Yeah,
with
my
booze.
heart died it stopped for like 3 minutes. It was paddled back. I was in Des Moines, Iowa, of all places. Here we full circle back to Iowa.
Right, yeah.
And
life saved in Iowa.
so I've had two crazy experiences in Iowa. That's something.
Different
Farm
ends of
aid
your
and
spectrum.
death aid.
Yeah.
But I'm back. And I feel better than ever. And to liberty. I might say to liberty is some folks like to get away, take a holiday from the neighborhood. Well, you can't. You can't. Sobriety is my neighborhood.
Yeah.
Basically, to use it as an analogy, and I'm in that New York state of mind. I'm in that sobriety state of mind. And, you're never going to see me at your front door preaching. You're never going to see me passing out pamphlets and all that stuff. But you will see me going to meetings and serving the coffee and greeting people at the doors and receiving therapy. I'm also in trauma therapy for PTSD as well, that I always thought until just this past few months. Hell, I thought that was just related to the military.
Yeah.
I didn't know, but I was beaten.
It's
from the
related
ages
to
of
trauma.
From 3 to 9.
Uh-huh.
And I'm 61 years old.
Yeah.
I didn't realize any of this until
But they call those
a year
your
ago.
formative years for a reason.
Yeah.
From
And see, I
3
never
to
realized
9,
it.
when you have trauma, you're going to have to deal with that for the rest of...
There's a chemical response in your brain. It's like anything else. It's a system. Limbic, your animal brain starts to take over, and it dominates the frontal cortex where, like, our smart stuff is.
Yeah.
And it truly impacts the decisions we make, the bad decisions we make for sure, because we're not thinking in a way that if we had a healthy, balanced chemical brain, that it would work. And that absolutely impacts the rest of your life and your decision tree.
Yeah, and it can be physical trauma as well as emotional trauma, you know. I mean, what we're discovering about Aaron Hernandez,
exactly what I was
I
going
mean,
to think.
God rest his soul. And God bless him, and God forgive him if he did what they sentenced him for.
Right.
If he did it, then shame on him, and then it'll be up to God to forgive him. But that all being said, now it's being medically proven that he had certain conditions that could have easily have lent themselves to causing some of this. Now, I am the last person in the world that likes to listen to anybody use crap like that as justification, rationalization.
We're not talking about taking away accountability.
Yeah.
Like you said.
And he's gone. We're not trying to save his life and get him out of prison.
Right.
But if it's a fact,
yes,
then we need to use that to help us in the future when we're dealing with other people.
This is
like
on the folks that are healthy and don't have these problems to help us figure these things out. Because like the guy that, back in the 60s did the Texas Tower shooting, that guy, he's like, there's something wrong with my brain. And everybody's like, nah, you're just crazy, lazy, making bad decisions. Yeah, called it, right? And then, sure enough, when he died, they went in, and there's a tumor in there. And the doctor's like, that might have had an impact. The fuck it didn't.
Yeah.
Like he tells you, you can't CAT scan his brain. He's like, something is wrong with me.
Yeah.
And we can't justify the horrible behavior of Aaron Hernandez, but we can start to understand that I wouldn't be any different necessarily in the same situation if I had that kind of injury to my brain. And that's where the understanding comes, so we can start to deal with these guys instead of making them just outlaws.
Yeah,
and
vilifying him with no benefit for the rest of society, because we're not about taking away the sins of Aaron Hernandez. We're about understanding something so that we can avoid a tragedy because of
I want to
circumstances that are controllable.
I want to make sure that's crystal clear to the people that his bad deeds that suffered from his actions. I want to make crystal clear that I in no way, shape, or form trying to diminish what they've gone through and belittle what they've gone through, the pain and the suffering that they've had to endure with their families and their losses.
Their trauma.
Yeah. Yes.
Because they have to deal with that trauma now.
For the rest, forever and ever, amen.
It's it's propagating, it's just self-propagating, trauma is.
Those football players that have all had CTE scan, again, remember this too, these guys are all volunteering. Like, there's probably something wrong up here. Go ahead and do the check when I'm gone.
Yeah.
That, again, lets all of us know we have to frame the Aaron Hernandezes of the world. All of the guys that commit these things, you're just like, that just doesn't make sense, these kind of actions. We've got to frame it in a mind of, this might be out of his control.
Let's make some sense of it in that it's an effect that is caused by some circumstance we're creating.
The receiver from the Bengals,
Chris Henry.
He's the one who jumped out of the back of the truck and he finally passed, but he was still playing then.
Wow.
And then when they checked his brain, it's like, oh, well, no wonder he was so erratic. He's got all of this damage in his brain. And I bet Ray Caruth, again, not to justify his action, but to understand that there's a medical something here, and if this is a system, we can eventually work on solving it.
I quit consuming the NFL product a long time ago, and so did Pete. I followed Pete's example, actually, and he had...
I knew we were going to go here today for some reason. I'm ready, man.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm flipping ready.
Huh.
Do it.
I'm ready, man.
Yeah.
I grew up playing baseball, football, basketball, but specifically baseball and football.
Mm-hmm.
I lived and breathed it. Back in Arkansas, we didn't have any stuff like
video games,
curling or video games,
curling
or volleyball.
We didn't have any
or
stuff like
we
curling.
had tetherball.
Punch each other
wrapped around a pole.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Somebody had a pole somewhere.
We had physical sports. We didn't have lacrosse back then. We didn't have hockey. We didn't have soccer. We didn't have that stuff back when I was growing up.
Right.
So I love physical contact sports, and I love football. I love college level football and basketball. I love pro football and basketball. Mm-hmm. But, man, there is a message out there to be made, but it is not at the expense of the national anthem.
Yeah.
There is a message that has to be made. It's unbelievable how we have seemingly gone backwards as a society. Either that or it's been noticed and displayed and reviewed and discussed more now and brought out in the open. Maybe that's it. Maybe it hasn't gotten worse. Maybe just the realization, the awareness, and the acceptance, the radical acceptance that shit like this happens, and shame on us. Mm-hmm. Now there's a huge message to be made. Can you not find another forum, another venue other than during the national anthem? And if you're truly, by God, Veterans Day showed it to me, and the day before and the day after when we had the big sporting events. You didn't see them doing it. You didn't see them doing it then.
Yeah.
Why? If they don't think it really has an effect on the veterans or on the servicemen and women, and if they don't think that it really is related to sort of borderline disrespect of the national anthem? Why did you change it? Why did you alter your mission? Why? Because it was politically unacceptable to do something like that on Veterans Day. My opinion.
Okay.
I'm sticking with it.
I'm going to give you mine.
Nice.
I don't think that it was necessarily just because it was politically unacceptable, because I admire what Colin Kaepernick has done. I don't know that I would have chosen to do it, but
I admire what he's done too, just not during the national anthem. What has that got to do with anything?
Well, he's got us talking about it. That's why.
Because it's so controversial. Why do you have to do controversy? Why do you have to have something controversial? Because has it done something good for this country, really?
Well, I don't know, and I think it remains to be seen.
Exactly.
But I think the lunch counter at Walgreens was
Right.
controversial back then. I think Rosa Parks taking a seat on the bus was controversial back then, and it could just as easily have been said, hey, Rosa Parks, you know what? We want to hear what you have to say. I hear the sincerity in your voice.
Right.
Yours. But
This is like a sacred song. It's as close to sacred as you can get.
Some people need to get hit over the head to realize that somebody's trying to say something.
There's a million ways to get somebody's attention.
I wanted to take a second out of the show and talk to you guys about our sponsor, WeFixYourScript.com. What I love about these guys is they're encouraging you, just like John, Mark, and I, to create something. If you think screenwriting is your thing, or if you've got a script that you're kind of stuck on, this is what you do. You don't got to buy anything. Just give these guys a call. Schedule a 15-minute consultation for free. It's WeFixYourScript.com. I highly encourage you guys to support these guys. Reach out to us. Reach out to them. Reach out to WeFixYourScript.com.
Okay, but yes, and Hill says, "Can we talk about the lyrics?"
I need to give my opinion since we're doing this.
Right, the veteran in the room.
As a veteran, when I look at the flag, what I meditate on and have for ages is I think about the people before me that have said, "Not in this goddamn day," and they picked that flag up and they kept going forward. They waved their arm at all their people behind them and said, "Follow me," and they ran over that entrenchment. So I think about and I meditate on those guys, and I know positively I'm not alone in this. So though I put my life in the box of Providence and surrender that to defend those guys, I personally take offense to doing it in that forum with that symbol.
Of course.
Because there's people that have literally grabbed the stick in order to die next.
Of course.
And that is the problem with
Of
it.
course. They can choose anybody that wants to do that message because it is a message that needs to be out there.
Right.
And we need to realize it and accept it.
And they get to be offended.
But we don't need to try to get somebody's attention because I'm so tired of controversial crap. I have to deal with controversy my whole life. There's so many other good, positive ways to get attention, to make a difference, to get things done other than trying to be controversial.
And this is a good point.
This is like the height of controversy.
You can't have so much damage from your protest that you create even more divide, which I think where we're at right now is we're looking at the potential for having just fuck you. And I'm like, well, fuck you, then fuck you. And now we're not able to work together. At some point, we've got to work together. And one of the things we'd like to try to do is try to find on the show, Roger, is the uncomfortable compromise. We're like, I fucking hate this, but I'll do it.
Yeah.
You know, and if that's where we got to get to, then we all need to get uncomfortable and get working together.
Pete likes to wear really, really tight shorts, too. I think it's
Sweet
just the discomfort.
Jesus.
But
tight and shorter. I'm going shorter now.
I get Hill is back here in the background. Just every once in a while, I see him cringe and shake his head a little bit. The words to that song are deplorable.
There it comes Hill.
Again, here we go with the break it down. Here we go with the break it down.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not. I absolutely understand what you're saying, and like I said,
if we dissect everything, though, John, if we dissect everything, it's almost like the Constitution. Okay, it has been so distorted.
Yep.
And annihilated.
Yeah.
Our freedom of speech.
You've had dinner table conversation about this document, have you?
Oh, my God. Listen, I believe in freedom of speech. I believe in the right to bear arms. I grew up shooting shotguns and rifles.
Sure.
I believe in it.
Yeah.
Don't believe in just because we have the right to go out and purchase an AK-15 or AK-47. That's just me. Just me. I just don't see it happening in my lifetime. I don't see a reason to do it other than to be able to say, well, the Constitution protects me. Mm-hmm. That's just not what the forefathers, if we want to dissect it and get down to the nuts and bolts of it, that's not what the forefathers, they didn't envision allowing people to have fully automatic weapons and semi-automatic weapons and devices that can transform, and, you know, all that stuff.
Can't the same thing be said, though? And I appreciate the position, but can't the same thing, if the forefathers didn't foresee the weapons now, but the amount of free speech, the harm of free speech is caused, Third Amendment, Fourth Amendment, Fifth Amendment, when do you stop? When do you say, no, they meant all the rest of them, just not the second?
Right. I hear you.
And we do have a means of changing this. It just requires a lot of people to go, we don't like this anymore. We're going to amend the Constitution. But we refuse to do that.
See, I almost use it as an analogy, is like the political process is such a joke, I think, when the president can sign, and I don't mean this president, I mean a president can sign something into law, but then one group can veto it. And then the president can come back and override that veto. And then it goes to the next house, and they can issue their own veto. And it's like, well, everybody has the right to do it, but aren't we going to come to a conclusion? Aren't we going to accomplish something instead of trying to hurt? And the American people suffer from it, in my opinion, and in my experience, you know, and shame on the people. Back to Kaepernick. I'm a diehard. I almost wore it today. My team's back, man. My team's back.
Go Rams.
Niners. And God bless Kaepernick. I was a huge fan of his, and all through college. I think he's a tremendous athlete. And if, in fact, he is being blackballed, which he probably is.
He is.
You know, he probably is. And that's a shame. That's a crying shame. But it's shame on the owners for not stepping up. It's their team. It's shame on someone not stepping up and making a point and making them and getting that message.
Let me just say this. What's up, y'all? Hilliard on the mic. Here's the thing. I think we live in a slightly different world, right? First of all, we live in a white world and we live in a black world. They're two fucking different things, right? So you actually had a really, really good point about they chose not to do it on Veterans Day, right? If they really believe in this thing, why didn't they do it on that day? I think you have a point to that. However, we live in a place where, in my opinion, I'm just the black dude with a fucking opinion, is we all are at a state where if something is negative, people protest it and they want change, right? Whereas before, it's like, no, that's just what's real.
How it is.
This is how it is. We live in a day now where people are doing shit about it.
Yeah.
So this song, my entire life, has been a song none of us like as a black person. You're just finally starting to see.
Wow, really?
No.
See, I never heard about it. Why haven't we heard about it?
Because you don't know all the lyrics.
No, I'm saying, why haven't we heard about the people that do know the lyrics?
Because I think that somebody...
Because for centuries now,
this
we've
isn't,
not listened
right,
very much to black
we've
people.
heard about slavery.
Hear this out.
A little bit.
Check this
A little
out.
I
bit.
mean, yes. You can't say we've heard about. Yes, we've heard about slavery,
right?
But the magnitude to which a people were affected by the institution of slavery is not something we get educated
Is it in
about.
the first verse?
No.
Is it in the first verse?
It's in the
Which that's not in the first verse at all.
No, it's in the third verse, second and third verse.
and-
But it's but it goes in about what they're really trying to say, and
Really?
they at some point
See, I
somebody
have read
decided
them once
it used to
before.
be they sung the entire song. They eventually toned it down because it was offending too many people. So my whole thought is they have people like you who know how to write a fucking song.
Right.
Why the fuck can't you get somebody else to write a new song
I hear you.
that has the same power, same impact, that wouldn't offend anybody?
Absolutely.
You see what I mean?
I
And
don't
what I'm
disagree
trying to
with
tell
that
you
at
as
all.
a child, growing up in the hood, none of us liked that song. It would come on.
Isn't that amazing?
And nobody would be singing the song.
Because you know something, until my brother, and this is the honest to God truth, and I value myself at knowing lyrics, but regardless, until my brother was elected, and I had the honor of going into the White House and staying there on multiple occasions, 100 occasions, in the Queen's room.
That's my room.
Stop it. In the Queen's room, which is it's adjacent to the Lincoln bedroom.
You know I had to say it, Pete. Come on now.
So we got some paranormal stuff going on in both of those rooms, the Lincoln bedroom with Mary and the Queen's room, whatever. But
There's a couple Marys in there, too.
Oh, stop it. But there's a plaque. I don't know it. I think because in one room is the Gettysburg Address, and in the other room is the Star Spangled Banner. And I read the third and the fourth verses for the first time in my life. So I'm assuming that that's the original.
Right.
Because I didn't even know there was that there were
Because
third
it's before your time.
I guess so.
know what I mean?
So
Right.
see, consequently, all these years, all my life, I've never heard it brought up until on my son's life right now, today, by you.
And we have known about it for years.
See, and I
time.
didn't know
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
But where
See,
does
a
that
lot
know
of
that?
this is because it takes
Wow, this is
some
heavy for
This is
you right
part of
now.
black
jarring
history is
thing
where I'm going.
for
They
us
don't
to
teach this shit in
address.
school.
Yeah. I mean, we don't address these things. We let these things sleep
Yeah.
for so long. And,
Obviously.
And I mean, again, I hear the sincerity in your voice, and I know Pete from his heart. And when we say these types of things, we absolutely mean them with sincerity. But there's a viewpoint out there that's missing.
Absolutely.
And hasn't really been heard.
And it should be heard.
Yeah.
And I don't dispute that at all.
Okay, so
It's just that.
how about this,
it's-
Roger? If you think about this, now people did not kneel on Veterans Day, and I'll say I'm not one of the players who knelt, but I'm going to speak for them and say, you know why? Because it's never been about
Right.
disparaging veterans.
It's not about that.
ever.
Absolutely.
It's never been that.
I know. But why wouldn't they have felt that way on Veterans Day? Because, see, veterans don't just feel like veterans on Veterans Day.
No, but it's a courtesy. It's to say, hey, we're doing this protest, and then wait a minute, hold on though, not on Veterans Day.
Okay,
You know,
okay,
I
now,
might be
along
mad at
that-
my
It's not
mother
about
sometimes.
the veterans to
Right,
them.
I understand.
To you guys who are veterans, it's like it's about us. We're protecting you, and et cetera, et cetera. To us, it's about change the fucking song because it's offending us.
I hear you.
You know what
And
I
see,
mean?
and I've never heard that
Right.
before. I've never even heard anybody say that before, voice that before, ever.
And here he is in a
This is
band
a-
full of
we're
brothers.
breaking
It
it
could've been-
down.
Band full of brothers. Band full of brothers, and they never hipped him to that.
We're breaking it down.
Man.
That's because he got the paycheck.
I
See?
know. You
They're like,
got
we
the
ain't even gonna
paychecks.
talk to him
Hey,
about it.
Damn it, I guess so,
Yeah.
man. I feel really ignorant right now about that from a musical standpoint and from a damn message
Just from a cultural standpoint,
From a
'cause it is
cultural
different,
standpoint, I
you
should
know?
have known that.
Yeah, but here's the thing. You know that now, and you have an open heart that wants to accept. And not everybody's there yet. So then my question to you is, okay, if that's not the forum, and I respect that thought as well, if that's not the forum, where? Where do we
That's a
do
good
it?
question.
Where do we do it? Knowing
That's
that
a good
everybody
question.
around this table wants that.
That's a good question.
Where do we
And
do
I
it?
think that, just like you just presented an example of compromise, like on Veterans Day, and I believe that the veterans, and I shouldn't speak for the veterans because I'm not a veteran, not of conflict or any kind of military. I am a
Now,
veteran.
he's a streetwise
I'm a
veteran of the
I'm damn
blues.
sure a veteran. Yo, G. But
I go, didn't Ice-T write a song about him?
That's right.
Hustler.
but you know something?
It's pronounced veteran.
But there should be some avenue that would allow us the compromise we're looking for. The compromise that will take us forward in this, all of us together, because that's what we're trying to accomplish, isn't it? To work together, to live together, to love together, to work together, to be together. I mean,
But they're protesting saying we want change. The people, in my opinion, who are against it are saying, no, we don't want change.
see, and I don't like that.
You see, but that's
Yeah.
what they're reading.
Yeah.
You see what I mean?
I got you.
That they're reading that they
Yeah.
want to keep it as
And see,
it
and I
is.
don't like that. So we've got to come together for this compromise to move forward. And see, the thing is, just like, in my opinion, the veterans don't think it's much of a compromise when we're doing this controversial thing, regardless of what is behind it, regardless of what the message and the power pushing it forward and trying to get the attention. It's like the national anthem has become like anything but the tool that it's always been as far as representation for the country from a military standpoint, if from no other standpoint. So that's where I think people are so conditioned, people are so conditioned, myself included. It's never even dawned on me that there would be something wrong with standing up, saluting the flag, and doing the national anthem. It's, and partly now from ignorance.
Right.
Because I had I would have never used the word offensive or intrusive or abusive I would have
About
never
the
even
national anthem. Yeah.
about the national anthem.
Who knew that?
But see,
I
that's
didn't know
been.
shit
I've
about
had this
that.
argument with a few white guys at the Writers Guild, and they're like, "But they changed it. You know, they took out the verse, so why isn't it okay now?" And I'm like, "Well,
Because of the way it was written.
because of the way it came from some, but the guy who
got
wrote
you.
it believed what he wrote.
Right.
So
Yeah.
you know what I mean? You're still giving him the power.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's why I don't understand. You have to be it to understand.
Yeah.
To them, it's just a thing. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
but see, we've got to get past. We've got to come together in some form
How?
or fashion because we
Right.
can never know what it really feels like.
True. And yeah,
We
and
can
you never
learn.
will. You never will.
Right, exactly.
But
sometimes I think that we're expected to know and to put ourselves in the shoes of ...
But
And we
that's the
can't.
thing,
I mean,
though.
we put the shoes on, but we
as
don't know how to
people
walk
of-
in them.
We as people of color live our lives exactly like that. You don't have to.
But see, we never have.
But we
what
live
the
our lives
difference
like
is.
that.
I think here's what the difference
So
is.
how
I
do we
think.
get that? How
And
do you?
here
You
is
do
the-
exactly what you said. You put yourself in somebody
You put
else's
yourself in
position.
some-
Yeah,
Yes,
but I
exactly.
can do that. I can put myself in their shoes, but I can't walk in them.
But you
I'll
can
never be able
analyze.
to walk in the same direction or the same path.
No, but you'd be
But
a
you've
lot
made
more
a-
sensitive to things
you've
if you
made a
put yourself
start.
in that position
Yeah.
all the time.
Yeah.
And see, and I usually try to do that.
Right.
It's just that these little points,
You've
these
done
are
it today.
educational.
You've
This is
done it today.
It's educational for me, man.
You've done it today.
Cool.
And I think I'm
I'm glad to hear
interjecting
that.
on Hilliard's point, but the way that I see it
Yeah.
is the problem is not that you haven't done it until today. It's that so many people aren't willing to get to today. You
I
know what I
gotcha.
mean?
Yeah.
If you say, wow, I can't believe that I haven't understood this until this day, as long as I've lived on this planet until this day. Yes, but this day is here. And what we, I think, all need to do and are trying to do is to bring the people who aren't looking for this day. The problem is that there are so many people who do not care about this level of understanding of other human beings. You know, and that's what we're seeing empowered. And that's what bothers me about what we see in today's political climate is that all of the empowerment for the people who say, we don't want, you know, I don't even want to use the word change because people have misbranded the word change, but we don't want things to change. We don't want to take down statues of Confederate, you know, war heroes. What about that is there to be nostalgic about?
See, I never took
don't have
it.
to take 'em down.
To be quite honest with you, I never took it past the historical aspect. I never took it to the.
the emotional
I never got
toll.
to the. I never got to the damn matter. You know, I never got to that. I got to the fact that, hey, I grew up reading about the Civil War, studying about slavery, and I hated it. I hated the war. I hated slavery. I was glad the way it turned out. Here we are. Blah, blah, blah. All superficial.
Right.
You know?
It's on the surface.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's as far as I took it because.
Well, that's
I
as
didn't
far
know-
as an education to a kid growing up.
And
can
to
take it.
somebody that never did experience it or was related to somebody that, or I guess I was on the opposite side of, you know, on the
Yeah.
opposite side, but I don't know about it. But I'm just saying we're all hooked up one way or the other
Right.
over the years. I mean, if we stretch it enough and if we get on enough online sites to find out about our ancestry, ultimately depends on how hard we search. You know what I mean?
Right.
Pete,
And
what you
so-
got to say? Because I see you stirling up.
Oh no, I'm I'm moving around because my back is stiff. No, this is a complex issue, and I would submit that your point about the words clearly, if it gives offense,
It's the
to,
words and who wrote it. People keep forgetting that part too.
Let me get there with you. I understand the black community, and you guys have legitimate beefs about a lot of things, and I don't know that this protest is about the song specifically. It may be like part B or whatever. We're going to change the song. It's a shitty song anyhow. I mean, it means a lot to a lot of people. It's a big hill to get over, but we've got to get over that hill together. And if that means that we've got to wait and do the work on getting people to come up the hill, then that's where the hard work is. Because it's not just flipping a switch, because then the song doesn't mean anything to anybody, and that's not the case. We've got to balance the offense that is genuine on both sides. You know, people get to be offended when you disrespect a flag because you're disrespecting the country, and they see things as being good as a whole. Doesn't mean that there's not harm and hurt. And look, we want the greatest good for the greatest number of people, but if we focus on one people, are we doing that? That's a good conversation. These things are it's complex. You know, the treatment, and we've had Fred Leland on the show any number of times talking about policing and the black community and what the police owe us, you know, and but what do we owe the police? Like if we want to have more trained police officers, then we have to dig deeper in our pockets to pay for more cops so that some of the cops can always be in training and always developing. We have a show we're about to put up with a guy named Skip, Central Valley, really good interrogator. He's a cop, and he's like, understand that starting in the late 90s till about 2012, we lost 85% of the knowledge in our police force. All the old cops got out and retired. So we have these young guys. So there's sources to all these problems. And if we spend all of our time being offended at everybody and not having these kind of candid conversations, look, it's okay for me to be uncomfortable because I'm in a cross-cultural situation. It's supposed to feel weird, and I'm trying to understand these things.
And he chose to wear them tight-ass shorts.
But they're short. They're short.
He got them sexy legs. He got, you know, Pretty Ricky is what they call them.
That's Pretty Ricky. He's not going to let that waxing go to waste.
We also have to pick these fights because they are hard fights. So look, Francis Scott Key. Does anybody know all the verses to Silent Night? Probably not right now at this table. And if we read into it at any other time, maybe we read offense into it. Not that the words aren't offensive in the Star Spangled Banner, but we're looking at it through a historical perspective. Francis Scott Key has not said a word in 150 years. So we have to understand that, look, there's offensive things that Abraham Lincoln has said in speeches. We've captured it. It doesn't make him a racist. It makes him a product of his time.
But he also makes it somebody that he's not one of our favorites, though. Not one of our favorites. you know what? I mean? So, you know what I mean? So there's interesting things in there.
But you're also looking at, like, look, we can look at, every time I go to the Jefferson Monument, I read the words in his rotunda, and I'm conflicted because this man owns slaves.
Right.
You know, and it's part of the history of our country. But at some point, we've got to pick the things that are ready to work on. And if it's pulling down statues, then great. Then what's the next thing that's going to give offense? Are we going to start changing the name of Georgia because it's named after a king, and the Carolinas, and this roads, and there's a school district up in Marin called Dixie, and they can't decide what to do. So now instead of worrying about getting kids educated, they're trying to decide if they want to change the name of the school district.
But see, that's where I'm going with you, George. I'm sorry, I'm about to call George.
That's right.
Roger.
People call me that all the time.
He's funky.
I think it's a damn compliment, man. George, shake your funk to people. Want to get funked up.
Yeah.
Now there's so check it out. Check it out.
Yep.
But where I'm going with that is we live at a time. So we just did a podcast about this the other day, and we were talking about sexual harassment in Hollywood, right? And how it's getting to be a time where executives, showrunners, writers' rooms, everybody's going to be concerned about the males are going to be really concerned about having a female either in the room or being in the room with them by themselves. It's going to cause a lot of friction. You know, you go out and do your little water bottle tours when you're meeting with the executives or pitching, and you're in the room. They're going to make sure that their assistants in the room. They're going to have an extra eye in the room.
Yeah.
It's gonna cause a lot of friction. So where I'm going with that, we're in a time though, where sexual harassment is strong, equal rights is strong, women's lib, everything is that we're at that time. So I think that it's going to take us a while to figure out what it is, but people are going to do this no matter what.
Absolutely.
To find it. And we just have to be willing to ride with it or keep it the same.
Yeah. To evolve, you have to revolve. Right. You have to have revolt to get to evolution. Absolutely. And part of my thing is this like, what do we want to work on? Because whatever it is going to be hard. And we can't just say, I want it now, so it's going to be now. We have to go
from the youth. What you got to say, little kid?
Man, like Pete said, it's
Come
complicated.
on, baseball. What you got to say?
It's complex. I was an athlete, and I did participate in the national anthem before every game. And it's hard to say now because I'm not a professional athlete. But I believe that if I were on the field at the time, I also would have taken a knee. Not because I don't have respect for our troops or our military or anything like that, but simply because it makes noise. And
that's an interesting point.
Well, it does make noise, but noise isn't always good. I mean, you go out on a talk.
It's not always good, but it creates talks like this.
It does, but there's so many ways. There's so many ways because I don't think controversy has really helped us too much. I mean, evidenced by the situation right now.
Dr. King should have walked across that bridge.
I don't think that was too. I think that was just bold. I think he just met with a great deal of resistance. But this is just like something like right in your face. It's like nobody was expecting anything.
But if it was then, we would. If it was today, and it was in,
Yep.
it would be all on the internet.
See,
and
to
it
me,
it would be the same.
See, I never
thing.
took Dr. King. I never took anything that he did as disrespectful or
Yep.
in any way. I didn't see anybody. I've never heard, but again, I never
But
heard all the
clearly
verses
some
of the
people
song.
did because they sick dogs on folks and they water
Right.
hosed people and they.
Yeah, but that was
what they
because
were
of his
right there.
color.
I'm just
That was
no.
because
But
of
what
his
I'm
color.
saying is he did something that a lot of people found offensive, so offensive
Right.
that the police came out.
Now, offensive
so-
is different than
military came out.
disrespectful.
Yeah.
You can offend somebody without being disrespectful.
Well,
you know?
well, let's talk about that. I mean, just the same thing. I mean, I've seen the photos of Kaepernick. My man was sitting, kneeled by himself quietly. He wasn't going, fuck this, don't do this. He was like this,
Let me jump in on that and
Silence.
inject this. He's kneeling
you know?
because he reached out to Nate Boyer, who's been in this room. And Nate's like, look, you have teammates. You have an obligation. I'll stand. I don't understand your protest. I don't necessarily agree with it, but I have defended the right to do it. So I will stand behind you at the position of attention as you kneel with your teammates. So we've already had a little bit of compromise.
All right. Is Nate a white dude?
Yeah.
There you go.
I don't know if I.
He
I
didn't
don't know.
kneel because he doesn't understand. That's my whole point.
He's
But
at
you can
attention.
He's supported by being there.
He's at attention
but he
for a
still
different
stood
reason.
in the same position.
He stood behind him
In the
because
same position that he
Well,
did.
but I'm making a different point. I'm talking about the compromise. You take something that Nate didn't agree with in terms of philosophically,
Right.
but he also, and I am too, like my job, as a warrior is to liberate the oppressed.
Right.
And that's his motto by trade. I get to borrow that. So he will stand behind your right to have your free speech. What he was saying is get off the bench, because he was sitting.
Right.
And go up with your teammates and kneel when they
Which
go
is what
in.
he started doing.
Yeah, and
Right,
just
right.
because you don't kneel doesn't mean you don't support it. I mean, let me use sobriety as an analogy. There are many ways to achieve sobriety. There's not just one way. I can go to 2 meetings a week. I can go to 3 meetings a day. I can have a sponsor. I can have 3 sponsors. I can not go to a meeting all week and then double up the next week. I do whatever works.
You can cold turkey by yourself, whatever the fuck.
I'm trying to accomplish sobriety and to better my life. The fact that he would stand behind him in support of him as a brother, as a teammate, because he knew why he was kneeling, I think is just as powerful as whether he would have gotten on his knee before. I mean, there is no definition. No one has written, if we're going to talk about writing and lyrics, nobody has written the lyrics to where if you're going to support me, you're going to get down on a knee or else you just don't believe it, or you don't support me, you don't support my effort, you don't support my heart. That's just not true. Everybody is different in their approaches to things. And if there was ever, we're going to be in a world of trouble if we ever get to the point to where we think, no matter what we're talking about, sports, entertainment, politics, religion, if we ever get to the point to where we think there's only one way to accomplish something, if we ever get to that point, we are in danger.
Totally.
We're in danger because we're all human beings and we're all different by definition.
And I think that's what is troubling about the political climate today.
If we
is that
had
there
somebody,
are a lot of people
and
who are saying this way.
and
is the only way.
I heard you mention a little bit ago, and I was going to use also as an analogy, it would help so much if we had a leader that would
Don't we have
try
one
to
in the White House?
that would try
the
that would
rest of
try
the
to
sentence is
find
the
it.
important part of it.
Right, that would try to find it, whatever it is, the message,
As
the
opposed to
understanding,
shunning the-
instead of trying to stop it
Yeah.
and counter it.
Yeah.
You know, instead of trying to stop it and counter it and say it's not the way we do that. You know, well, yes, it is. You've got to search for it, just like I do too.
Can I ask your opinion on something? Donald Trump obviously is divisive.
Very divisive.
Your sister-in-law also divisive, and that's not meant to be critical. It's just a fact.
Well,
most of the nation didn't want either of them.
But a lot of people perceive her as being divisive.
Right.
She didn't come out and she never came out and said anything about immigrants.
No, right.
anything about
and I'm not
African
trying to say that
Americans.
she did. Right.
You know. So
what I'm asking you is,
I mean, her politics are divisive. She's brilliant. She's outspoken.
Yeah.
She's on that cutting edge.
She clearly can gather a crowd to do a lot of incredible
And she
things.
can offend
Yes.
people just by her presence alone.
Right.
In her words
it
alone.
You know, there's a
possible-
word for that. Anyway,
And plus, she's a woman,
Yeah.
and we don't know what that's like either.
right.
Doesn't matter if we dress like one.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter if we eat
Not
like
only
one.
Notice it. He said, "It doesn't matter if we dress like one." And looked at
Pete.
Pete towards him
I was
shorts.
going to say.
Well, I'm not saying no. I didn't
say
mean that, man.
Not only are my feet too big to try on her shoes, I can't walk in them shoes either. You know.
See, that's what I'm saying.
Every Halloween.
not
Every
very
Is
Halloween.
it possible for someone, for any of the top tier politicians, to be consensus builders? Though, does that person exist? And would
Not
we
right
accept
now.
it?
Not right now, just because of the divisiveness
Yeah.
of the, if
It's
nothing else, the
gone
politics.
on so long that it's gonna
The
need
Democrats
to
and Republicans, it's like, let
Yeah.
me look, take the thing in Alabama, for instance. How disgusting is that? And they, being the Republican side, from a political standpoint, they're wanting to protect that position. They're not even talking really
be
about
so
the
much.
women.
Do they want to protect that vote?
But they're willing. They're
But they're
trying to
willing-
get rid of their own attorney general and have him go back to his home state and go as a write-in to get back the seat that he gave up to become attorney general.
Right.
Just so they'll have the majority. And so as long as we have that division to where it's so political, I get so sick at my stomach about
Me too.
that.
Me too.
I get
hate it.
overwhelmed by all.
I'm
that
not a
stuff.
Democrat or a Republican. I'm a registered Democrat just because I'll be honest with you. The main reason, and I'm very conservative in a lot of my views, but until you don't
But
usually
the chicks
see.
on the left are looser. What's
Well,
the, what's
no, I don't think that's possible, man. I don't think that's going to be possible. But I just I don't like the fact that they will win. The Republicans will win at any cost. At any cost.
Right. Yes. Yes.
They will destroy a family, an
I agree.
individual. They will tear
Any
the
cost.
house down.
Yep.
in
For the
order-
sake of winning.
For the sake of winning.
Yeah.
They'll go against America. They'll go against the citizens.
Is it not true for both sides though? I mean, is there
not to that degree. No, sir.
I would like to meet the Democrat that would say, "I would love to lose."
No, now
You know
that's
what?
extreme.
It's not that
That's
they love
taking
to
it to-
lose,
that's
but
taking it to another
Democrats
extreme.
are terrible at winning. And I'm a
not good at-
Democrat,
they're
and
not
I
good at
lean to the
winning.
left on most issues, not all. And the thing that bothers me is when somebody says, "Those goddamn liberals, they all do this."
Them damn
You know
hippies.
what? I read something on I quit going on Facebook so often because I got sick of seeing things like, and I saw this morning, them liberals and trying to take our gun. You know what? I'm a liberal
And a gun owner.
and a gun owner. You know, and we all get to be a dichotomy
Yes.
on certain things, and we're all complex human beings. That's the part that bothers me. And to say that the left does it as much as the right, I just don't think that's true.
Well, it's not true.
It's not true.
It's not true at all. In taxes, in the gun,
left
in
would
gun
win
control.
more if they did.
I agree.
The left would win more if they did.
Sure. And you know, they asked my brother once. They asked him once, and I thought this was profound when he said this. But they asked him when they were beating him up, and the country was flourishing at home and abroad. It's hard to argue with facts, hard to argue with success. You can say whatever you want about a person's politics, but if it's working for America, it should be embraced. I don't understand why we can't just be Americans. I don't understand that.
Yeah.
But I remember they were asking him, they're beating you up. And he'd tell me, I have to put my armor on every day. He said, can you imagine where we would be if they would work with me? Because they had they had the majority in the House and the Senate. And he had to get up and battle them every day because they would rather do what was propelling the Republican Party than what was in the best interests
Of
of
the country.
America. And people would say, why don't you stand up for yourself? Why don't you hammer back at these people? He said, because it would make me a Republican.
Yeah.
Enough said.
On that note.
I mean, look, they tried to portray Hillary as wanting to take everybody's guns away.
Yeah.
Let's give it a rest.
Yeah, let's give it a
Let's
rest.
give it a rest.
You
She
know
never
what? And I
was-
was going to say
she
this.
wanted gun control. She never wanted to take guns away, or I would have voted against her
Right.
because I'm a big believer in guns and ownership of guns.
Also, you know, I mean, we know that you and she don't agree on everything.
I don't think she agrees on everything with anybody.
Yeah.
But we have a better
I mean, and that's
relationship
just
now than
fair.
we've ever had in our life.
I'm
and
glad
it's
to hear that.
mainly because of my sobriety.
I love hearing that, man. Good
Yes.
job.
No, it
That
really
is.
is.
That's great to hear.
She told me just recently, I went to New York, and she told me just recently, we went out to eat. She said, Raj, I love you so much, and I'm so proud of you. And she and Big Brother both said, I don't think we've ever been.
Okay, that's family, Big Brother. Look.
Yeah.
They said they'd
I
never
call
been
him
so
Bill,
proud.
but that's Big Brother.
Yeah.
When you were, by the way, thank you to Jay Moore because he always helps us out.
Jay's great.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and,
Jay
and
is
For
great.
some reason, he really likes me a lot.
yeah, he does. And when he was on your
I mean, I don't know. We haven't really hung too much or anything, but
He does. That show you guys did together, man. That
Yeah.
was emotionally.
It was great.
That was something else.
And I was
That
going
was
to tell
something
you when you were talking about
I'd had about 4 shots.
Okay. Wow.
I'm embarrassed to say, but I'm proud to say.
Yeah. When you did that show, though, you talked from the heart about your brother and everything else. And as a guy that
It got emotional.
I don't get terribly political in terms of party and everything because I really don't side with either side. I'm a crappy Republican and a crappy Democrat.
He is.
But I haven't favored your brother's policies and everything, right? You made me see your brother in a different light.
He's a wonderful human being.
because
Let me
of
tell you
your
something. When he
background.
fucked up, when he did what he did
Yeah.
that he shouldn't have done, I was the first one on the plane to give him to fly up there because it was time that little brother came to his rescue for once.
Mm-hmm.
It was the best hug. It was the biggest hug that I can remember us ever having. But I told him, you fucked up, man. And he looked at me. He told me during that trip, he said, Roger, I understand your addiction more now than ever before. He said, because I admit I've been addicted to this inherent power. He said, can you imagine being the leader of the free world, the most powerful man in the world? He said, I got addicted to the inherent power, quote unquote. Yeah. And I loved him for that, for saying that. He said, but now I understand more than I ever have your struggle with addiction.
And who could do better in that position? Honestly, it's just such a.
I remember going to Mother when he first started running, and
Yeah.
I did a year and a half in prison and stuff for trafficking coke everywhere around the country, and was with a family, a Colombian national family from Bogota, and it was just ridiculous. I was sick as hell, and still performing somehow. He was getting ready to run for governor, and I remember telling my mother, I said, Mother, God bless him, but please don't think he's an angel. I'm just saying. She said, son, I know he's not. None of us are.
Yeah.
But anyway, he's
Well,
a great man. I do know that. He's
you
a
know
great
what?
man. Whether you like his politics or not, he's a great human being. And he gets up every morning, goes to bed every night thinking of how to make this world a better place.
Would you ask him to go to North Korea and chill some people out? Because he's one of the few guys in the earth that I
Who
think
could do
could
it.
handle it.
Right.
Yeah.
Really serious.
You know what?
It took me
And
3 years to convince him. I had been asked by the Hyundai Corporation to go and perform in North Korea. I performed in South Korea several times. And I remember my whole band, we got together when after about 3 years of requesting it, he finally said, okay, you can do it. If it's still on the table, you can do it. And my son was who I worship the ground he walks on.
I told John that. You made that up.
He was about 4 years old at the time. I called all my guys together, the band, and said, we got this opportunity, man. We got this opportunity. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. I said, nobody's performed over there in 70-some-odd years, 80 years from the Western Hemisphere. I said, we've got an opportunity to do this. Let's take full advantage or let's decline, And, man, I remember being, when we accepted, I remember being on, they were beheading everybody,
Yeah.
photographers, all kinds of journalists, students, everything. So why wouldn't they do the leader of the free world's brother? I mean, come on. This thing had looked pretty good on a platter.
Not
I'm
anymore.
just saying.
Not anymore. It's
I'm
kind of
just saying.
junky now.
But this was the dude, the crazy dude. This was his dad.
Yeah.
So, he was still bad enough,
Certainly
but he
possible.
wasn't like this guy.
Yeah.
And I remember being on the tarmac at Beijing, the international airport there, and they sent a corporate jet from North Korea, from Pyongyang, and we were all outside. We were all Earth, Wind, and Fire is my favorite band of all time. The spirituality, the ability, everything has been great, and we always felt like Earth, Wind, and Fire. Whether we sounded like it or not, we felt like it when we were on stage. You know, we all held hands.
Certainly not the first time those words have been spoken on this show.
Oh.
Not the first time at this table.
Wow. Yeah, I was a huge Maurice White, Philip Bailey.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, come on,
Everybody.
man. And going back to the days of Ramsey Lewis, come on. And we were all holding hands, crying out on the tarmac, saying a prayer and singing together before we boarded on that jet, because it was like a half mile or a mile out on the tarmac. They weren't allowed to come anywhere close to the terminal in Beijing, but we couldn't go from South Korea to North Korea. We had to go from China into North Korea. I didn't know if I was coming back to my son, you know, and I didn't have a dad growing up. So it was really powerful for me because I didn't want my son to grow up without a dad, you know.
Yeah. That was a real shit.
It was a powerful
moment. Yeah.
It was it was a powerful moment, man. And to go there and be a part of something bigger than we'll ever be. Mm-hmm. And it was called Peace in the Peninsula. It was an effort back then to try to get north and south, you know, and I'd already been on the Bridge of No Return from the south side, and then I went at the DMZ, and then I went from the north side and out on the Bridge of No Return, and it's real powerful, real historical. I was very blessed to be able to go, and I was even more blessed to be able to return safely to my son, and then he sent Madeleine Albright about 2 months. I went up and briefed him at the White House, and which was the first time I'd ever been asked to brief a president. You know?
You briefed him.
Yeah. I had pictures of all these tunnels. You know, they're known as the tunnel masters.
Yeah.
And they have more granite and marble than any other country, and it's unmined because of the sanctions that have been imposed on them.
Wow.
And it's just fascinating and very eerie. It was like an extended stay at Twilight Zone.
Wow.
It was very bizarre, but it was very enlightening, the power of that country. And now I would never. I've been asked by the corporation to go back again if I was interested. And I said, hell no.
When
I don't
Sly
think so.
Stone was on our show, we talked about him going to Woodstock and how there being like 100,000 people there, and he lands. He's like, we better do a good job. You guys had to do the same thing. Like, you guys are playing literally for your lives, maybe. Make sure everybody's happy. Make sure they get that good show. So what song do you lead off with?
Nothing Good Comes Easy, which is a song I
Title
wrote
track.
about my mother. Title track, yeah.
Yeah.
Did that. Then we did a song called Wishing Well.
Was that your song or
was that?
Terrence Trent
I was
D'Arby's
gonna say,
No,
song?
it wasn't even Terrence Trent D'Arby. It was Wishing Well. I throw my penny in the wishing well. It wasn't Terrence Trent D'Arby, and I have forgotten the name of the artist. I'll have to pull it up when I leave here. And then we did an old version of God Bless the Child, which, you know, it's hard to beat.
Yeah.
Hard to beat that old tune.
Yeah. That's a universal theme, too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, you know what? We're running long, and I want to say this because we became a show about humanity,
Yeah.
and I thought we were just going to be a show about music, and I think that I would still like to just have that show about music anyway.
I'd love that, too.
I don't know that if we ever sit down and start talking about music, we won't spin off into humanity.
Well, it'll probably stick with Stevie Wonder, who is my number one,
Okay.
Michael Jackson, who's my onstage idol.
Yeah.
Stevie Wonder is just my overall idol.
Sure.
He's the greatest at everything
At
he ever
everything.
wanted to do. Mm-hmm. And Earth, Wind, and Fire, which I think is the greatest group of all time. So it's going to be hard for us to do a show that branches off past those three.
we'll get there.
We can do it.
We'll get there.
I'll get you. We'll try out the mic and I'll get you going again.
But
Yeah.
Pete and John, thank you so much for asking me to
Man,
do this.
thank
This
you.
is such a pleasure and Hilliard, thank you so much, buddy, because you educated me, partner, today. And one thing about it, I love to learn.
Hey,
Yeah,
man,
I love to learn.
we covered some great ground, and
Yes, we did.
this is the beginning. So I want to say this. Of course, we love Hilliard. He hosts us here all the time when we're in Los Angeles, and we've gotten a whole lot done about the humanity and the human experience at this table. And today was exceptional in the journey that he's allowed us to take in this room.
Thanks. And
I
thank you,
also-
sir, for letting us do this and you being a part of it. I thought that was real cool.
Yeah, that was terrific.
He just came up and took the bull by the horns.
And you know what? All of the nice things that you said about your brother, we appreciate those things too. But I'll say, I've known you one day, not even one day, and I think you're a beautiful human being, man.
Thanks, man. God,
So-
the good Lord and my good mother.
All right.
Yeah.
Roger Clinton, everybody.
Thanks, y'all. Peace.